Okay. So just a little bit about what we do as an organization. Action Innovation Network is a network of technology business incubators throughout the New England region. And our incubators are supporting companies besides life sciences as well in other industry sectors. But the organization itself is meant to bring the incubators together as more of a collaborative network rather than competing with each other for companies, really. And we share best practices among ourselves for incubator management. We share resources incubator to incubator. We make connections for the companies, whatever their needs are within the network. So we look to be larger than one incubator by having the network all participate together. We have, over the 7 years that we've been following this data, supported over 500 startup companies in our network alone, which have then created over 1,800 jobs from those, hosted over 420 interns within those incubators, and raised over $800 million in funding through their companies. But maybe a little bit more of interest to you is where we are. And so we have 16 incubators that have participated in our network. As you can see with the geography here, they run from southern Maine. Most of them are in Massachusetts, into Connecticut, and we're entering into Rhode Island. They're scattered mostly along the eastern part of the region. This slide, I don't know why I'm advancing so slowly here. There we go. This slide was made from an ecosystem asset map that we have been creating that's accessible from our website, and it's sortable on all kinds of asset categories and everything. Here I've pulled up where the life science technology assets are in the region. And you can see, obviously, that the clusters are really strong around Boston and Cambridge. But I think what this is meant to show as well is there are areas outside of Boston and Cambridge, as Monica has just talked to you about, on the North Shore, and the Lowell area, and the Worcester area, and various other areas, South Coast, and along the southern border here, and out into the western part of Massachusetts, that are also building hubs of activity in the life sciences. And so this is really one of the takeaway points that I'm trying to make, and I think that Monica has tried to make in her presentation. And from the conversations today with our incubators, just a few points that I'd like you to carry out with you after this is over. If you're looking to expand your operations to the US, you'll eventually need to find a location here. And we feel that our incubators are a really good first landing spot to consider. That they can work with you as a strong strategic partner in being able to support you and making connections for you, and steering you to different funding opportunities, getting you the resources you need to grow your company and make you more successful. Their options for space and services are very cost effective compared to sort of the market rate real estate that's out there. And they have flexible leasing options in the incubators. I think those are all very good examples of why the incubators might be a good place to look at a first office. And I'll mention there are life science hubs beyond Boston and Cambridge, which you probably realize would have the highest real estate values. So there is very much worth looking outside of Boston and Cambridge if you're looking for an office space. And as Monica said as well, transportation is pretty good around here, with public transportation or Amtrak and driving routes, all very accessible to Boston and Cambridge, as we all need to go in back and forth anyway. And I want to say that, if this was held in person, we would have been giving tours of these incubators during your visit here. But if there's an option for you to travel in the future when things open up a little more and you would like to see some of those incubators, I'm happy to take you around to do that. So just wanted to leave you with that. And we're going to start now with our 7 incubators that are going to be talking more about what they do. And let me start with North Shore Interventions. I know Chris Ilsley is here to talk to you about that.
I am. Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you for that, Joan, and Nessie, Ernest, and Mercedes. How are you guys? I trust you're well with all this craziness going on. So again, thank you for the opportunity here. As Joan mentioned here, we would normally do this in more of a face-to-face and tour of each of the incubators because we do have a variety of services and support that we can offer international companies. I represent North Shore Ventures. We are just part of Greater Boston, north of Greater Boston. So for us to get into town is probably about 20 minutes. So it doesn't take us too long to get into town. We also have a presence actually in Boston and Cambridge itself. So we have that additional support and offer. Joan, do you want to, I'm not sure if I'm in control, so you want to hit the next one?
I've got control, so you're ready for the next.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, we actually are slightly different, and I think this is some of the language that we need to work on between globally. We are an incubator, not an accelerator, in the fact that we actually work with companies more on a day-to-day basis. We're also not a co-working space. So again, as you probably scoured Boston, you'll probably see Cambridge Innovation Center or CIC, Biolabs, Lab Central. Those actually are, will remain a co-working space. If you look on their website, it's up front that they are a co-working space. We actually look to work with companies as an incubator, and we actually do more hand-holding, more development, more strategic partnerships with our international companies in particular. I actually need to update this slide because some of the data that we've just produced there is out of date. And I just updated this actually for a board meeting tomorrow. We've actually worked with 64 companies over the past 10 years and generated $480 million worth of investment in those companies and created over 400 jobs. The community we have is very strong in a wide variety of areas, in particular drug devices, diagnostics, telehealth. We've actually got a behavioral health telemedicine company going on right now, which is doing really well due to COVID. One of the unfortunate side effects has been behavioral health challenges to the population during the COVID crisis. So we've got some companies doing artificial kidneys, artificial pancreas. We've got companies doing oncology. We've actually got working with 4 companies from Europe at the moment, 2 French companies, a Polish company, and one that actually came through the program that Mercedes and Joan and Ernest were running called iBrev. And they're actually, it's a bit of a weird one. They actually are Irish company with a base in Spain and Germany, if I'm not mistaken, but an Irish registered company. So all of these companies, I think what we try to do is we do what's called a soft landing program for international companies coming over. Jen, you want to go to the next slide? This is my final one, so it's not death by PowerPoint. Okay. We offer the physical space, but the key thing is we offer the support services. So the companies, particularly we find international, really don't need a lab per se from day one. My general rule of thumb is you probably don't need a lab for between 9 to 12 months. Those first few months really should be focused on customer discovery, understanding the marketing landscape, the business landscape, the regulatory landscape. And I think that's really where we come in and connect you to our community more broadly. We have a range of service providers that can help you out with that. From incorporation, we have some companies that will actually help you free of charge to incorporate. You just have to pay for the filing fee, which everybody has to pay for in the Commonwealth. And then really it's more drilling down to, you know, what are your market needs? What are your access needs? I think the key thing to remember here with Boston, and I use Boston loosely to talk about the greater area, including Worcester as well, is there a lot of good ideas coming here. So, you know, you really do need to work on your pitch, on your what you're going to deliver and what you're going to provide, and really do delve into the customer discovery aspects of things. It's important because the community is very open but very busy, and it's a challenging community but also an open community. Particularly for Greater Boston, I would say the other thing is you really want something that's different. Again, a lot of stuff is coming through, but also be realistic about what you can achieve. One of the things I'd like to highlight, we've worked with a Polish company that was beating me up to go and see a pharmacy at Boston Children's Hospital. Or MGH, one of the big hospitals. And it's kind of like, get in the queue. Everybody else wants to get into those places. So I was actually able to get them into the Beverly Hospital, which is next door to us, a mile away. And they spent 2.5 hours with the director of pharmacy and got a pile of information that they needed to understand how real hospital systems work. So that was very important for them. I can go on about what we do and happily to talk to each company because I know you've got a wide range of opportunities here and services you're trying to deliver. I'll happily work with you on those. Just to give you some other stats that we've got in there, 30% of our companies have been founded or led by immigrants, and also 20% have been founded and are led by women. So these are quite high numbers. And finally, 89% of our companies that we work with that graduate from us are viable after 5 years, which is a key thing. But yeah, I think the key thing for us is that we have the physical infrastructure, and you will probably keep that in Europe, sheer cost of scale initially. But if you were looking to open a satellite office or a facility in the Greater Boston area, we can help you out with that as well from a manufacturing perspective. But the key thing, I think, really is spend the time initially understanding the market, understanding from the consumer perspective or the buyer perspective, user perspective, as well as from the regulatory and the government perspective and or the legal side of things. Angels are extremely strong over here compared to VCs. So, you know, an angel group in the US, particularly in Greater Boston, can invest up to about $2 or $3 million. That's a group. Individuals can invest $250,000. And obviously down, but they can go up that high, so it can make a big difference. The big difference, I would say, with angels over VCs, with a VC, you are often one of their portfolio, but with an angel, you are relying actually on their Rolodex, their contacts, and I think that's a big difference. But again, you know, if you have any questions, Mercedes and Ernest in your time zone can help you out. They know us really well over the past X years, and they can easily point you in the direction of what we can help you out with. Again, we do a soft landing program. We are helping both this Polish and Irish company right now remotely, so don't be put off by the COVID. You know, we can set up Zoom meetings, we can make introductions to you right now. We can set you up on a program that will allow you to do things remotely. The two French companies were actually, they were actually over here, and basically they can't get back to France, to be honest, at the moment. So that's been a plus for them. But yeah, you can really, at the moment, I think is actually a good time because you can lay a lot of the groundwork and get a lot of the, the fundamentals sorted out before you actually arrive. One thing I would say in particular in Greater Boston, I'm a rugby fan from back home, and this is a contact sport. You need to be here. You don't have to be here full time, but if you are going to do it remotely or from a distance, you need to plan that you will be here on a regular basis. I would say usually, for 5 days a week, business week. But you need to be seen. You need to be out there networking. It is a case of, out of sight, out of mind. But when we do open up, there'll be a lot of things to go to. You can easily be at 2 or 3 events a day or night, evening.
Chris, we're going to have to wrap up with that
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other things I will quickly say as well is you also should use Greater Boston not just as an access to North America. You should also think about it as an access point to Asia as well. There's a lot of communities that come here from Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and places like that as well. So anyway, I'll hand it over to the rest of the incubators. And again, they're all good partners for us, and we welcome working with them. Thanks, Joan.
Thank you, Chris. Randall, you're up. I'm going to have to start timing everyone because we do have a session after this one. They'll be joining us, and we want to keep things on target here.
I'll be brief. Hello, my name is Randall Chinnick. I'm the founder and principal of the Southbridge Tech Incubator. We're located in South Central Massachusetts, about 1 hour from Boston, Cambridge, and within an hour of Providence and Hartford and Springfield, and about 2.25 hours to New York City. So we have a great location. It's a bit rural where we are, so that the real estate costs are a small fraction of what they are in metropolitan areas, anywhere in the region. We have space that generally runs about $250 per year per square meter for a benchmark. We're an unusual incubator in that we are really focused on medical device development. Next slide, please. We are a combination of proprietary leased space and configurable spaces. So on the proprietary side, tenants have their own proprietary offices and/or labs where they have a key and they control access. The rest of the building is common areas, and those are accessible to all tenants. So the proprietary spaces can be offices as small as 10 square meters and labs that go up to about 70 square meters. We have a clean room for medical device assembly. It's roughly class 10,000 clean room. And that is equipped with all kinds of flow benches, microscopic systems, video microscopes, curing equipment, ovens and vacuum, and pretty much everything you need to assemble a wide variety of medical devices. We have a full optics lab. My prior company specialized in the development of optical medical devices. So we've retained that lab, and that's accessible to tenants. We have an electronics lab, a mechanical lab, a machine shop / maker space, a large conference room, small conference room, kitchen, and break room. Next slide, please. Here are a partial list of available equipment, some of which is available as part of the lease, and some of which there may be an additional charge for. Next slide, please. Oh, you skipped one. Back, please. Okay, so here's some images of the facility. As you can see, it's newly renovated. It's an old school building, as you might have noticed from the introductory frame. And so it's very spacious. There's very tall windows all around. The upper level, the lower level also has windows, so a lot of light in all the spaces, except for the optics lab, which is purposely black. Here you can see the large conference room, the small conference room, typical biomedical lab, machine shop, a very well-equipped optics lab, high-end workbenches, and clean room that is very well-equipped as well. So my last slide just touches again on our location. We are centrally located at where the dot is, and happy to host any company that would like to come out and see what we're about. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Next up, we're going to have Christine Logan from Tech Place. Go ahead, Christine.
Christine, you're muted, Christine, and we cannot hear you.
I always say I'm going to get a bumper sticker that says you're on mute after this whole pandemic. So
Right. Thank you. We can hear you now.
Sorry about that. Good morning. I'm Christine Logan. I'm the director of Tech Place, which is a 95,000 square foot manufacturing incubator that's located in Brunswick, Maine. And we are located on a technology campus that used to be a former Naval Air Station. We are about a 2-hour drive north of Boston, and it's easily accessible by bus or train. And our campus has about 200 businesses and companies on them, all in the technology manufacturing industry, with about 2,200 people that work on that campus. I'm ready for the next slide. Okay. So in our incubator, Tech Place, we have about 38 companies in there now, all startup and early stage companies where they have maker spaces, both to be able to do prototype work and their full manufacturing space. There's office space, the bioproduction lab, there's a focus on the biotech companies, but we also focus on aerospace, composite technologies, IT, and clean tech, along with biosciences. Next slide. A little bit about just what our shared spaces are in terms of the incubator. Like I mentioned, the office spaces, so everywhere from a desk space if you're just starting and you want to have a presence and have your mail delivered there, and meeting room space, up to single offices or suites as your company grows. Also our maker spaces, so for anyone that is also doing assembly of medical devices or building prototypes, we have maker spaces, wood shops, metal shops, 3D printers, also a composite layup room that's like clean room, so you can do assembly in there as well. I do want to mention a couple of the companies that are currently in Tech Place and on our campus that are in the biosciences. So in this facility, there's a company from Switzerland called Inspiro, and they work with liver tissues, doing 5 species assays for the pharmaceutical companies. And they use our shared lab as well as their own private lab that's in our facility. You might be able to actually go to the next slide. This is just more of our shared spaces, conference rooms, game rooms. We also have in-house resources, attorneys, so you can answer questions on IP or formation, tax laws, workforce laws. Also, we have an entrepreneur in residence that can help connect you to supply chains, just help formate your business strategies and business plans. We also have a manufacturing extension partnership that's available at Tech Place to do ISO trainings, quality control, so those types of support systems and business resources, also access to capital within the facility as well. Joan, you want to go to the next slide? So again, this is, I started to talk a little bit about the companies, but this is our shared bioproduction facility. All of the equipment is shared. Some of the companies that are located here will also bring in their own personal equipment that they need for their own operations. You could rent a lab bench is how it works, and then you have access to all the equipment. I mentioned Inspiro, which is the company from Switzerland that's in there doing work with liver tissues. We also have a company called Field Phytonutrients that they do a process with algae to create a kind of carrageenan that is a paste that goes into pet products. Mölnlycke Healthcare is a Swedish company that manufactures wound care dressings. So they all kind of share the lab facility. Okay, Joe, next slide. I'll just have you take a peek. This is a partial list of the equipment that's available. So we know that sometimes as you are just settling in, the cost of purchasing equipment can be quite a challenge. So this is what we have as common equipment for everyone to use. And then, like I said, you could bring in your own equipment. And that's it. I think I made it, right, Joan? I just saw my...
Perfect. Got it.
All right. So I'm happy to answer questions offline. If anybody, Joan, I think you'll probably share our contact information, but I'm happy to give more details about the facility if anybody needs them.
Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
We're going to move on to Mark Prince, who's represents the Work Lab.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Mark Prince. I'm the community manager over at Work Lab, and we're a startup incubator for virtual hardware and electronic startups in Worcester. So specifically related to working on biomedical startups and biotech. We're on more of the biotech side. If you want to go to the next slide. So in terms of where we're located, we're right in downtown Worcester, represented by the blue pinpoint. And going from left to right, on the top image, WPI is about a 15-minute walk away. City Hall is about a 5-minute walk away. And then towards the right side, we're also located right next to the library, where you have free access to various market research resources, and I believe Bloomberg terminals, as well as MBI is about a 30-minute walk away, and then UMass Medical is just a few minutes drive away as well. And on the bottom, you'll see is we're located right next to the new baseball stadium, the construction right in Worcester, which will be one of the next big cultural hubs in Central Mass. Next slide, please. So we offer a mix of both private prototyping space, office space, as well as public space such as conference rooms and event space. So if you just need to have a quick meeting or presentation to a potential client or investor, those spaces are available for free use. And for the event space, either if you want to have a meeting because COVID, everyone needs to space out, that's usable, or if you want to have a larger training or demo day, we've had up to 60 people in that space as well. Next slide, please. Now, the prototyping lab is set up with a couple, with a 3D printer farm. We have just over a dozen 3D printers, a laser cutter, CNC router, and members also have discount access to the makerspace 2 floors above us, Technicopia, where they have a far wider range of equipment, such as a metal shop, wood shop, vinyl cutting, glass blowing. So really to help you develop your initial prototypes of your hardware, electronics, and virtual products for as low as cost as possible. And for people who are remote, as well as people in person, they can benefit virtually through free CAD licenses, Onshape and SolidWorks, MATLAB Simulink, as well as affordable patenting service and AWS credits. And we're continually adding more virtual benefits, such as one of the next ones we're looking to are ANSYS and COMSOL licenses. And I believe that's it on our side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next up, we have Sophia from Mansfield Bioincubator. Go ahead, Sophia.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Yes, okay, awesome. So welcome to the Mansfield Bioincubator. We're an adaptive and supportive co-working community, really working to be there for the next generation of scientists, entrepreneurs, and all types of life science, actually, pharma, medical device companies, biotechnology, and much more. And it's really a space that allows you to start from the ground up, from the very inception of the company, through expansion and hopefully ultimate success. And you have the opportunity to start and grow all in one place, with a lot of smaller benches and then an opportunity to expand out. And you can advance to the next slide. And so one of our key benefits really is our location, amongst many others, but the location is great. It's just about under an hour from the hub of Boston and Cambridge, of course, with colleges and some of the greatest research institutions, but also under an hour away from Providence, Rhode Island. So we've had a lot of great partnerships amongst both areas. Also, we have a lot of robust support and programming to really ensure the company's growth to their fullest potential. With training and mentorship programs, also there's a great network of professional advisors that we offer. A lot of education through various on-site as well as online seminars, courses, and technical workshops. There's also a variety of management support and services, including legal, financial, secure IT services, and various others. And finally, we do offer membership automatically within various organizations such as MassBio, MassMedic, just to name a few. And what this does is it actually enables any of the members to apply for funds such as the Small Business Innovation Research Fund, the Seed Grant, a few of which we've received actually recently, and a lot of the companies that have gone through the incubator have actually benefited greatly from that as well. And something I think that is also a great benefit with the location, being in southeastern Massachusetts, is that we really try to serve and help develop the underrepresented community. So really including a variety of population and entrepreneurs that in the past have often gotten overlooked. Okay, I think you can advance on. So just a little bit about our journey. We actually opened just a few years ago in 2017 and grew greatly since then. Have hosted over, I think, a few dozen companies by now, and 3 products have been launched since then with those companies. Over $8 million in sponsorships, and they've generated over an aggregate total of 100 million since their inception, and having the ability to move on and expand a lot further once they've gone through the incubator. And over these 3 years before COVID, we've hosted over a few dozen different programmatic events with thousands of attendees. And we're actually continuing to do so even with COVID, with various online workshops and, again, memberships in other organizations that offer a lot of training and tools as well. And one more thing is that we really create an environment that stimulates a lot of interaction amongst industry leaders, investors, academia, government, so leaders in all sectors really, and try to really promote that collaboration amongst all parts of the life sciences community. And we currently have about 10,000 square feet of shared resource space that includes lounges, conference rooms, private offices in areas. But what we're also doing is working on an expansion that should be completed within the next year that will offer an additional 15,000 square feet. And that's all thanks to a recent grant we received from the Massachusetts Life Science Center. So this is just a list of some of the companies that have already gone through and benefited greatly from the incubator. Oh, sorry, thank you. And there's, as you can see, a really, really large variety. In the past, it's been a lot of medical devices, diagnostics, therapies, and various instrumentation tools in the life sciences. But right now, there's also a few working on cannabinoid research, animal health, and oncology. Okay, that pretty much wraps it up. This is just kind of a list of a lot of the sponsors and partners we've worked with in the past, and some of them are continuing to work with us as well, amongst a few newer ones that are just coming on board. And my contact info is there. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to speak with you. Again, my name is Sophia, and the Director of Development with the Mansfield Bioincubator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sophia. Next, we have M2D2, which is the Massachusetts Medical Device Development Center. Although Marianne Picard, who would normally represent this, doesn't seem to be on the call today. So this is her only slide that she sent over. But what I'd like to say is that they're a very active incubator, and they have strong connections to corporates, to funding opportunities with BARDA. They have their own 200,000 K challenge that they run each year, even through COVID. And they do have a soft landing program that is fee-based, and they're very willing to help you. They're usually full at the incubator, but there isn't a turning over of companies in there. So, you know, occasionally spots open up at their location, which is in Lowell, Mass, on the North Shore of Massachusetts. So that's all I'm going to say for M2D2. And I'm going to then change over to MBI, which is the Massachusetts Biomedical Initiatives. John Weaver, who heads MBI, is not available to be with us, but he did leave a YouTube presentation, which I guess I'll try to run. We probably have, say our next session starts at 10:35, and I think we just have enough time to run this. I hope this works.
On the heels of the development of the University of Massachusetts Medical School and the research that was being done there, the park became extremely important for more comprehensive, more in-depth research and development.
Having the academic community and research community behind the project, as well as the political community and the community project, was an important ingredient in terms of the success of establishing the park and getting BSF here.
The fact that it was ready and we were prepared is why BSF, a very thorough and detailed German company, ended up choosing that site. If it were not available, it would have been located someplace else, and we would have all lost out.
The initial goal of the organization was to really create a new industrial sector in this part of the state.
Our economy was not well. Our manufacturing had gone south and overseas, and we were hurting. We needed to do something fast. The hard part was thinking about what is biotechnology. It was a new concept, not just to Worcester or to Massachusetts, but to the world.
In the mid-70s and early 80s, the strategic decision was made to separate and have the WBDC focus on building a biotechnology and life science cluster here in the Worcester area. WBDC was connected with MBI through an initiative of the Chamber of Commerce in the city of Worcester, where they thought that we needed to take the idea of incubation and providing an ecosystem for young startup companies to be born here in Worcester and to service the rest of the Commonwealth.
When you have a scientist with an idea, thinking, boy, this might be a commercial entity, but needs a little bit of help. MBI comes in, helps with a lab, helps with service providers.
Creating new companies, encouraging many of them to stay and grow here in the region. That really was the initial impetus for this organization, and one that frankly no one else was doing, not only in the country, but in the world at that point.
The most difficult part of this equation is to translate that science actually into a company that ultimately can create a product for the patient. MBI is the connector from the science all the way to when a company is commercialized.
MBI approached us in a way that allowed us to seamlessly, directly go to the market and focus on the science. And that's what our customers wanted, and that's what we're good at. And we had grown from very small roots to an international company.
The Gateway Park project started as a brownfields reclamation project with the city of Worcester. The initial vision was to reclaim about 20 acres of property, save the historic buildings that could be saved, and construct new modern facilities for labs, classrooms that would allow for WPI to continue its growth in the area of bioengineering.
Gateway is a brand that everybody understands in Worcester. They drive by it. It reminds me of the biotech park. People would go by there and say, wow.
I stopped hearing you.
I think, Joan, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Biomanufacturing component. You know, once the drug is discovered, it's got to be manufactured. So that was very much a part of the strategic plan of the biotechnology research park.
The Baker-Polito administration put forth a very bold challenge to municipalities by creating the Open for Business program. The city of Worcester, along with the WBDC, the Chamber, and MBI, filed a very aggressive proposal that called for the redevelopment of 46 acres of surplus Worcester State Hospital land into a biomanufacturing park.
We will have biomanufacturing here. We will then have more clinical trials here. We will then have more researchers who do that type of research here. It will flourish and grow. And people all over the world will know that and come here.
This area has its act together. That sends a signal of confidence to private investors and to developers.
You know, if you want to get something done in Worcester, it's pretty easy. The leaders of our community get it. The government works. There's an incredible partnership among the educational institutions, and that is now spilled over into the research cluster.
Now we're at the point where some of this momentum is starting to fuel itself. People like that sense of success, and that breeds more investment, more success.
Innovation and brains are our product here in Worcester, and we need that workforce. And I think that MBI will continue to play a lead role on that. But we're still number one, and we need to continue to understand that everybody wants what we have. So let's keep our eye on the ball, our eye on the future, and keep building the industry.